Space mission from Jesus. Yes, no. The following may be the only expansion possible for you, my creative destructors. Welcome to Open Source Human 1.5, the original version of Open Source Human. We ask the question, where, when, what, how, and who should we pay for an economy that works? Now, I did say yesterday that is so largely answered. I have little fear by the end of my life, I will finish and emanate that material. Now, we don't want to wait that long. That would be a little too creatively destructive. So again, the original question of Open Source Human was where, when, what, how, and who should we pay for an economy that works? And I am 80-90% satisfied. I've got and that left to do enough discrepancy to end the world in a painful way should it spill. And I've already said on the show, I'm not going to do that. It's up to you to McCarthy yourselves. It's up to you to potty. Or just listen, call in, ask yes or no questions on the project. If I hate your question, I'll let you ask another one. Okay, so now this time of the show, we do the buttressing of the day, the Fabberful Hour. It's 9 minutes long. I've got some new features. Just recently got this phone back up and running. And let me see if I can send a large message off to my family and friends and, well, just family and friends at this point. I don't want to expand too rapidly. That wouldn't be international stagflation. All right, let me see. As you can see, it's no lie. I have annexed this room in this unlicensed mental institution. If you hear the background, well, maybe it's a lie, but I wouldn't let that happen, would I? All right. Okay, so a picture going out. Theoretically, so you take a picture at 7:34 a.m., 7:34 p.m., whatever time zone you're in. And however horrible, just be authentic. All this talk of transparency and government, things like that, and you don't get self-editing as satiric, as auto-satiric, as self-satiric as transparency is needed to be embittered by. So there you go. It looks like it worked. Buttressed my day. Sent one out. I sent a couple out today. Family and friends. And so this show, we're asking the question: where, when, what, how, and who should we pay for an economy that works? If you have ideas, just say you do, and I'll ask you a yes or no question. Here's the stupidium phone here at this unlicensed mental institution. The phone number is 1-503-245-5334. Alternatively, you can reach me on iMessages. If you catch the previous programs, that should all be working. If it's not working, if you suspect for an instant that it isn't with Fidelity, if it isn't with the same programming nuance that you experience on these shows in the Open Source Human 1.5 channel feed, just make sure you end or terminate those processes, because the only way to reach me about socioeconomic conditions, my particular separate book, my particular most accomplished process of my life, because it cares for all the processes I ever cared about. That's what the show's about. You know, if you have socioeconomic ideas, I'll ask you a yes or no question. I don't know. Say something. But the phone number is 1-503-245-5334. It probably doesn't work. Again, if you're in doubt about the fidelity of reaching me personally, just stay tuned on this, and I'll keep going with all haughty grandiosities. All right. So let me think. Let me think. Updates to potty potential, green zone potty potential, anchoring an event, risk management, getting bonding around the bonding of a socioeconomic book that, as I said in previous episodes, here and in a lot of places, has been decentralized, has been relatively disseminated, has been missorted, and I triplicated these things and more with the paper copies. Now to have really zero location on that, but other copies of material there. And like I said, just a little bit to finish, and wherever I go, I'm going to do that. Um, so, what can I say? The potty details, the anchoring of a green zone and rings and perimeters and doing things in Oregon era to bring better fidelity to constitutional matters, even enforce constitutional matters through some selection of after event um, deliberations on how to secure or enslave my person properly. Those details are to be dealt with with afterwards, and they can be small, but they should not be large. That's just the math. Um, these deliberators, they can if they so decide what to address me and what to give me as far as advice, um, when to speak, that's fine. But I can't imagine going more than like 5 seconds if I was to be a speaker at member state affairs in the near future. And as you can tell, this is not. There's no singularity or wormhole that's going to be opening. There's no apocalypse from the sky or the core. There are just a lot of mythological variables in science that have to be dealt with, and the optimization is sort of a conservative thing at this point because that's if you think about it, fundamentalism it's not going to go away. It's handed down from parent to child, from parent to child, from parent to child, and but even those people, they're not stupid, and they're typically not as liberally violent in all ways as other things. So, you have to understand, I will remain conservative as long as I can, but I have to show you that I like to have fun. And so, Yuccular War item number one to secure an anchor and risk manage the event is to have a sound shot heard around the world of a Trump executorial leadership variety in Peephole. Some emergent dry winter hope that bands can riot and bond through the perimeters to get to. Now, these things are very well known. They have emergency management agencies, people to examine the fidelity of this cause. And as I've said before, all this kind of management of risk that I've had no choice but to do as a movement of a person in the world should be secured by some management of that risk externally, should be called in to play with the variables of how to best go about it. And you have to respect the honest threat, the conservative threat. The conservative threat is the law. There are many religious leaders and organizations that have moved throughout the earth that have all bred their own code or emanative qualities. And so, as long as that is respected for a short term, I don't expect to expand upon any of these things against my own religion. Christianity, but that doesn't matter. It's really is more than just Christianity, I suppose. But that's where I began. So it has to remain conservative. We have to respect the honest threats. We have to go 401 .025. We have to go constitutional matters, securing people, houses, papers, and effects. And I'm hoping that's already been circuitously done, even though it would be not securing me in my personal papers or effects. And I'm hoping that constitutional value will be redeemed by other, honest threats. The executors and the leaders and anyone who might have questions about it. Yes, no, should we expand a separate book that may have already, as I said in the program last night, been the cause of so much of the picture code, bit biting, and highs of drain and attention these days. And that was never intended, like I said. Who could know that the government wouldn't protect them from their own responsibility to secure people, houses, papers, and effects. And just that, but luckily enough, it's good that I have stopped, that I have awaited a time of an expansive, safer environment to just be quiet and keep my head down and have no vice or no music, and except maybe whatever ragtag vehicle sense, I may drive up into that green zone. And maybe that's probably not even secure either, as I've sensed the loss of functionalities. So as I said before, I'm happy to walk any field in this Oregon era myself, and have a good time doing it, to make sure that our details of flamedom do not go up in flame. That's another offer. So let's see. You're getting two other details. Nobody calling in. Again, the phone number 1-503-245-5334. I do a little bookkeeping. Looking to get kind of potty money. If I can, I'm not going to do it myself. This is definitely a test. I have to make sure that the governments that supposedly are transparent, that supposedly would go to war to protect us, have not microeconomically erred, and I will not either. This must be a test. They must unite over the value of a single hurt individual. And now I've been hurt so bad. I'm not afraid to say, look. It's all in there. Constitutionally or something. I didn't steal that. I just happened to be working on cases and such. And I'm not a lawyer. But they were throwing books out. They were throwing old law books out. And I was like, heck, if people wanted to go off the grid, if people want to live far away from cities and prepare for apocalypse and et cetera and so forth, be the follower of a French Revolution or something. There are my people. Therefore I have to follow them if I want to lead. That old bon sang. So this is the issue. I have a separate book. I've answered basically the questions where, when, what, how, and how should we pay for an economy that works from the original Open Source Human program. This is the reboot. This is Open Source Human 1.5, where we ask the question, do a little inspiritual questionomics. If you check out the other shows, it's basically just yes or no questions on your religious, mathematical, political, friendly values, work, play, children, parents, grandparents, however it goes. If I like the questions you ask me about my separate material, um, I don't know. I mean, I think I'll just write your name down. You know, maybe that's something we should do. But if I hate your question, you get another one. If you really want to be asked a question about all that just penultimate clausality, clause work, sentences just previous, the people you care about, I will ask you a yes or no question. So you have to call in 1-503-245-5334. We do this show every single day at 7:34 p.m. Pacific. That's Americane for Western Coast. Good stuff. Okay, that's the time zone. -8 Greenwich Mean Time, whatever Universal Standard Time. I don't know everything. I just know pretty well the capability, and I'm happy to have things functioning as well as they have in these last few days. Not that that's an endorsement to, show you, these sorts of official research projects. But I've had no choice. I've had no joy, no choice to, no joy. Getting to the potty details. This show's a little bit more disorganized tonight because I've been recently about understandable mismath that I never intended. Just sort of art that got displaced online and disordered by whoever misinterpreted and things. But I'm happy to, like I said, I'm happy to have most functionality still going on. So no endorsement, but here was the funny that was going to end every open source human show. Yuccular ore. Who would lead the world? Who would gain a forefrontal tenancy, regulatory ruling in the world? Business 101, people, without the ability to summon a global poison pill. Business, if you want to protect your business, you take the poison pill. You start liquidating assets, essentially. And that kind of action will it should get attention. I'm not going to weaponize any of that. I haven't been given the orientation to be able to do so. But essentially, the Earth needs the ability to quickly, painlessly, and totally end all life in order to summon all those grandiose concepts beyond. It's just kind of as I said last night, a sci-fi notion, but grounded in a marketability. No endorsement, no pressure. It's really not even as dangerous as a concept. If you will. That's the potty. We talked again about potty details, securing a green zone for me to be quiet and work on my book, finish most part. Even if I start over, I don't mind. If it is all stolen, I would just do it all over again and we'd have a really good time. And not that I have to see any of that. I don't think it should be transparent. I think you'd be able to see me, not hear me, or anything I'm doing. I have, with a screen, opaqueness thing already from previous efforts somewhere could be gotten again, I'm sure. Those machines could be decided on by deliberators, whatever I should use, possibly. If my machine isn't safe, if that's how the material had gotten down and hurt myself so badly. But the potty details of the day, this potty civic phenomenon. Yuccular war item number 2, besides peoples and whipping me if something goes wrong. It who is without sin, may it plug up the first potty. It's just, it's about updating isn't it? Not just optimizing, um, saying you can search and seize correctly. Check those Article 1 Bill of Rights sort of things out. It's all in there. Uh, so we're looking for a white zone, I mean, a white site. That's what it is. Not these black sites. I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can to keep things light, but I mean, I just don't have really. Well, let me try this one. Let me try this one. Get a little bit of light where it should be. Oh, look at that. Now I've got a real spotlight, but you can't tell how conservative I am now. Let's try that for a moment. Yeah, I'm a driver. I can four weight. I just have chosen not to. There are things that should be respected first, which is all myth and all things. And people may think that they're getting knowledge here. They may still think that there is a hope to circumvent what something past my abilities is doing. Because I haven't expanded. I have hurt. I have hurt so that my living martyr could make me a living martyr who doesn't have to die and who will not see worse happen to anyone else. That's the ageism of my respect for all war. Now, there won't be an update to the Yuccular War, I don't think, for a while, but I will keep expanding potty variables. Today, yesterday, we talked about a pretty important one. We talked about a couple of pretty important ones. The idea that my work had a variable that was not fully secured yet, and the only weak spot separated and expanded without my knowledge until really, pretty much yesterday. But to expand that, we talked about, the children of the Orgon era, the ore-chested, who make it to the potty, the transparency, um, controlling the event, having the remote ability, just the simplest tools, to shut off and ask any question of any event activity, any amplifiers, any you know the stuff better than me, but I could probably figure it in half a day. Not have it built and have, well, no, not unless it was to save the world. Um, but I probably fail, wouldn't I? So yeah, I'm thinking they should have the ability to question at any time any activity is going on. So if there's too much transparency, there's too much potty, there's how is this happening? And the media says it's not okay for so long, and now suddenly it's going on. They may have those inklings, they may have those thoughts, those missed thoughts, but is that theirs or our issue? Who's going to be the sponges of tomorrow in mind? Who will uplift the human spirit out of this attention deficit, out of the lack of money? So I think that was the idea. That was the two yesterday. The two yesterday we spoke about just simple, if they have a question, have them just hit their little turn off button, and it will any of them would relay to all amplifiers. As simple as that. Um, uh, and I don't care. I don't care how many questions they have to ask. You know, I mean, just our leaders of the past, they didn't have the time to be as patient. They haven't had the privilege or the quality of life expansion that we've enjoyed. And for the first time, we may be able to honor that if we're just just a little more transparent. So getting to the two new items, potty details. Since nobody's calling in, it's 1-503-245-5334, or iMessages a flawed good soul. We said that yesterday. Capital AF, capital GS, a flawed good soul, which is off now. We didn't get anything yesterday, so I'm just not going to bother turning on. Get to the two items of today that I thought of today to further, in my own mind, secure the only variables that I have expanding currently and hold back the earth from exploding were this. I need to have you put out the notion of doing a watch prog society, programmers. This is open source Human 1.5. I need watch progs. Governments have watchdogs. I, as a variable of humanity, can have watch progs if I call myself an open source human. Fully variable by the honest threats of law and order, as it's always been, and as it could be ameliorated sooner than later, and we hope it would. To continue on, I put messages out. I put lots of messages out. I've pled with executive branch and legislative and judicial here in this country. And I'm going to continue doing that. But I've said in those messages that I had given up at one point. I won't lie. When I was 16, I was smoking pot. I had fun the first time, and every time after that, it was just vampires eating my mind. I don't recommend it in this day and age with all the fear and all the attention suck. Not that it's a bad thing. I'm not gonna. There's nothing I can say about that. But all I'm getting to is that over time, people thought I was mentally ill. I didn't start experiencing voices until I was 26. Yeah, 26, September. I tried to go be what the word is in English, American, whatever, honest about it to family and friends. But of course, I hit that label from way before because I got caught smoking pot, and they said, "Oh, your parents schizophrenic with no voice activity or no off recreational material activity of any mental disorder whatsoever." Getting to the point, fast forward to 2007, I did start experiencing voices, and I quit this movement towards an event that could secure my book better with all the conspiracy happening, multiplicity conspiracies that I'm going to prove at some point that I already have in the elements. So, getting to the point, I shut down. I shut down multiple times. After they put me on a really bad medication, the only way I got off is I got locked up for something I didn't do, which was really, really fortunate. Really fortunate. Because I never in my life, and I've been on, hallucinogenic drugs recreationally in the past, which I want to kind of keep away from children in a very regulated environment. Well, that drug they put me on, I got locked up and withdrew from, caused some really bad side effects. Permanent, I hope not. I hope I'm recovering now. But they shut me down. I mean, I never before, had like an internal stack overflow of, or whatever that means when it comes to the voice experience. I always parsed it really well. I always had a forgiveness about me. So I made progress. It was only when other people's doubts were cast on me so heavily that I had trouble. And I'm pleased to report that those discontinuations, those withdrawals from my own event securement, my own need to know the variables in my book aren't going to be used against anyone because they're not complete or because they'll get complete in a discontinuous manner. That has been resumed with the aid of tapes. And I mean, we had it bad. That drug, it we're still pursuing that matter. I intend to, but I mean, I would go flat on the bed and just be inundated with the worst input. And I don't wish that upon anyone. I don't want to say that's my fault because a part of my book may have caused. Well, go back to the old episode. There's reason why I think that may have been the case. Um, just forgive yourselves if that's what you've done. Um, we don't have time to punish people really. Anyhow, so the meditative tapes would secure the event. Don't worry about me having my internal stack overflows. I've reached out and been, to American English honest about. I was always fine. I would just suffer, lay down, suffer. Never got violent with myself or anybody else directly, only after having been cast into so much doubt that I knew by the math I could not help these people anymore. And I've recovered from that because of a forgiving spirit. So those are the two things to report. Did I get to the first one? Yes, yes. So I need watch progs for this show, programs that will do like a parallel to government watchdog activity for myself, and maybe fill my bookkeeping up one way before the other. Difficulty 10. But I think you understand, I have quite a good set of meditative tapes now. I have quite a good set of my own kept mental viscosity in key and rhythm and ward from these spirits, these conspiracies. Um, they're so synchronistic that they have to be a life force. Um, but again, we're not going into a wormhole. We're not going to a singularity. It just doesn't work for me to have power by the math. Not where I've been, not with my record. But you have to trust that um, with executorial or presidential powers, this world will be a whole lot safer on the constituent values. Um, I have 3 or 4 tapes, of just looped material, meditative stuff that tells me this is how things went wrong. Um, very concise things. I, I was really, really surprised that it warded them off quite readily. And I haven't had, maybe it's just, no, no. It's been my own ambition that's cured me. But I am prepared to fail in every way. I just need people who are going to do something re-abling. Something where everyone who moves this direction can say, I'm crazy. But because I know it, I feel like there's a chance. That's the idea. The idea is if you don't know you're crazy, you're the problem. This is a schizophrenic Confederate world. We have borders and people who disagree. That's just the math, if you look at it like a scientist. Even for people who think they exist without borders and don't need even attention to move because it's all God given, and anything that goes wrong shouldn't be forgiven. You still, by the math, are a variable. Variation. Do you catch the prefix? So this is Open Source Shim 1.5, the original version of Open Source Shim. We asked the question, where, when, what, how, and who should we pay for an economy that works? Now, I have that in a separate material, a separate book I've hoped to bond for investment-wise. But again, the constituencies around the Schizophrenic Confederacy, every one of them, are very sick. And I've had no choice but to declare myself a doctrinaire to all your faiths. Again, my own says, as I've said in previous programs many times, hopefully there's no loss of functionality in this fidelity of feed and transference. I do not intend to have any of my work start. I liked the idea of, it's 17 years now. When my potty or party consolidation would reach a palpability, and I would even entertain the idea of doing something safer than running myself as a candidate for any position anywhere at any time. So that's kind of what a potty, step up to party, get a couple names in the phase up would go. And to collapse back to that previous thought of controlling the work, I don't want to start. I don't want phase up to start for 17 years now. And I'm willing to be your slave and have your leaders dictate my every sustenance until that becomes a prudent concept and the translations are complete. I got some language in the room here to study, but I don't know if it's Fidelidus either. I'd rather learn at a congregative sense of highest law for you. And just have fun doing it. You don't have to hear anything. You just maybe not work by the math for me to be talking. But again, I haven't had a choice but to try to catch up to leaking variables. So that is Jack to this YouTube screen. I think I got through everything expansive tonight. One only Yuccular Ore item. 2 Yuccular War anchors for a potty event that will not be a singularity or wormhole or apocalypse. Now, finishing that thought, 17 years. It's been 4.5 since I had the epiphany. So John must be wrong. Somebody somewhere must be caring for more mustard seeds than the man himself ever intended to change mountains. I mean, very large, beyond concepts, maybe, even. We can change each other, right? Mustard seed, I don't know. So yeah, just 2 Yuccular Ore items, 1 Yuccular Ore item, and about 4 expansive concepts that may just get me to a point where I can interact with the honest threats of law and order today in a way that will make them feel like they would move in that direction and know they're crazy, but know it's the only way to get out of all the crazy business. So that's the show, Open Source Shim 1.5 tonight. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:34, Potty Pacific. Potty Pacific? Enough.